This message is part of the teaching provided by House on the Rock Fellowship, a church caring for the Miami Valley region. Before you listen, be sure to access the notes in the download section of the message page. Have a Bible ready. Thank you for being our guest.
Oscar Wilde was a controversial author who wrote controversial books in the 19th century in London, oftentimes in the newspapers, and even arrested for doing controversial things in his time that today most people wouldn't have even noticed or cared about. Such how things have changed. But one of the books that he wrote told the tale of a man named Dorian Gray. Dorian Gray was an incredibly rich young aristocrat in London who was also incredibly handsome. He was so handsome he could get himself into any situation and out of any situation just on his looks alone. And so the story of Dorian Gray begins by him being painted by a great painter of the time. And the painter is just enthralled with Dorian's beauty, his attraction, all things of his physical being. And he pours everything he possibly can into this painting, this picture of Dorian Gray, and gives the picture to Dorian. The story goes on, and in a later scene, Dorian is incredibly rude and cruel to his fiancée. She has disappointed him incredibly, and he wants nothing to do with her. He is verbally abusive and vile in a public space, shuns her, belittles her, cuts off the engagement, has nothing to do with her, breaks her heart for no good reason. And he goes home and thinks nothing of it. Until he looks at this picture painted of himself. And he is terror-struck to see that the painting has changed. What was a perfect picture of his handsome physique has now taken on an evil hue about it. The lines around his face has changed. And it is a face of malicious, evil intent. And he is horror-struck. Horror-struck that what seemed to be hidden on the inside now has made itself to the outside where others can see it. And he screams and he wails and he quickly takes a fabric and he throws it over the picture so that no one can see what seems to have happened. Then all of a sudden, the actual painter walks into the room. He wants to see the painting. No, you cannot see it. Why can't I see my own painting? Why can't I look at what I created? No, you must never look at it. You can never look at this again. The painter eventually leaves, and Dorian takes the painting, has it carried to a far, far corner and room of his estate, where behind lock and key, he's the only one who can ever look at it again. And as the story continues, the painting begins to take more and more of the evil of the inside of Dorian and projects it to the outside. What if you had a painting done of your soul? What if you had the inside laid out on the outside for all to see? I think like Dorian, I would probably quickly want to cover that up. But as you walk with Jesus and you walk with his words and his commandments, it seems to feel that the painter has walked into the room and he starts to peel back the cover and says, "Can we look at this? Can we talk about this. No. You cannot see this. We cannot talk about this. And we will cover it up and we will mask it. In fact, let me get that someplace where no one can see it. I would hate for anyone to have to see or would see what's actually going on in the inside of me. But Jesus' words come back to us again and again and again in the Sermon on the Mount. And we start to feel with increased detail and color what's really beneath the surface. We're at a place in the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus, the great painter himself, is going to show us even more. We've been walking through the Sermon on the Mount since January and finished this middle section where he unpacks the habits of holiness for his followers. We're to be a giving people. When you give, we're to be a praying people. And when you pray, we're to be a fasting people. And when you fast, prayerfully, those are disciplines of your faith and your habit that you give generously. You pray regularly. You fast often. That should be what you do. We do those things. That's what we do. But now Jesus brings us to a more practical expression where how are we living out and working out the commands in the kingdom of heaven in our own life. And so let me encourage you, take out a Bible. Let's go to Matthew chapter 6. We're going to look at verses 19 through 24 over the next few weeks. Today, just a part of that, but this section all goes together as one. And so I want to read all of it. In all three parts, really drill down and pull back the cover on one question. Who do you serve? Who do you serve? Do you follow Jesus? Or do you follow Satan? Who's your master? The first section, he lays open our heart. The next section, he lays open our focus, what our eyes are looking to. And then in the final section, who is your master? Because you cannot serve God and money. Let me read the whole thing. We're going to look at the first part today. Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 24. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? And no one can serve two masters. Either you hate the one and love the other, or you're devoted to the one and you despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Let's look at the first section today. Verses 19 through 21. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Right from the beginning, verse 19. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth. Don't storehouse on earth, is what Jesus is saying. Don't storehouse. Do not be accumulating possessions for yourself of an earthly nature. He's going to contrast an earthly storehouse and a heavenly storehouse. And what's the difference between the two? Because it's important to understand the difference between the two. An earthly storehouse, those possessions, earthly possessions, are temporary, they're takeable, they're touchable, if you will. They're temporary. Where a moth and rust can get to them, where they break down, they don't last. A lot of wealth was attached to clothing back in this time. If you had a lot of clothing, you were considered very wealthy. The average person did not have 2 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets, 5 sets of anything. Anything. Maybe 2. An undergarment, an overgarment, 1 pair of sandals. That's the average person. How many of you this morning, what am I going to wear? I can't wear that. I wore that last week. Somebody will remember. What's clean? What's not clean? What can be gotten away with not ironing? What needs to be ironed? We have entire closets and pantries and drawers full of, racks full of clothing. Marks of wealth, because we are wealthy. We are wealthy. Jesus says, watch out for those possessions. They don't last. They're temporary. Moth can get to that, destroy it. The elements can get to it, destroy it. What are the things that are temporary? Why would you accumulate things that are temporary? Why would you give of your treasure for earthly things? They're temporary, or they're takeable. They're takeable. Most houses back then were just built of mud and stone. A thief can easily, literally dig a hole through the wall and take away things in the middle of the night. How many of you have had things taken from you? Things that you valued and you cared for and maybe saved up for. Or maybe it wasn't a person. Maybe it was just the course of chaos and death, and something got wrecked and something got ruined. Why are you storehousing earthly things? I had a friend of mine in high school. His name was Toby, and Toby was incredibly mechanical, incredibly gifted, and over the course of 2.5 years had rebuilt a truck from the 60s. It was pristine. It was beautiful. And a lot of my friends were doing those things. Adam, you probably had a lot of friends back then they were rebuilding cars. Yeah. These are the kind of cars that you could take to, shows, and people would walk up and say, wow, that's amazing. And he remilled and did dye work and sanding and painting and finishing. It was a beautiful, beautiful truck. And the engine that he dropped in that thing, the engine that he rebuilt was not stock. It was not stock. And the number of times we would go over to the house and say, hey, I did something else on the truck. Hey, I did something else on the truck. And he'd pull it out on Route 18, and he would just hit that pedal, and that thing would just burn through rubber, and it would rip off. Well, finally, it was ready to drive to school for the first time. Now, when you pulled up to Conneaut Valley High School from Toby's house, you would drive across the front of the high school, then you would take a hard left into the driveway and go up the hill to park in student parking. And so you can imagine everyone's excited. Toby's excited, and he let this thing rip all the way across the front of the school. Everyone could hear it. And then he power slid into that left-hand turn right into the gate post and totaled the front of the truck. And there he stood outside his truck as bus after bus and student after student drove by, the look of waste and loss on his face. And Jesus says, why? Do not storehouse earthly things. The best example in the Bible, a parable that Jesus spoke, comes in Luke chapter 12. Luke chapter 12. I've read it before and taught it before. It bears repeating. Luke chapter 12, verse 13. Luke 12, verse 13. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Hey, all of our earthly things, tell him he's got to share it with me. Jesus said to a man, "Who made me a judge and arbiter over you? I don't have a say nor concern over those things." And he said to them, "Take care. Watch out. Be on your guard against all covetousness. For one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. Take care. You watch out. Guard yourself. Be mindful of this fact. Covetousness, the distorted desire for things. We teach you about that in our foundations class. It is the 10th commandment. It is the exclamation point at the paragraph of God's ethic on how we should live before him. Don't covet anything. Don't let your heart be possessed by anything. There's no life in it. You'll not find life in things. All the things that make up life are not found in things. And he told them a parable saying, the land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, now this is great, this is awesome, okay? This is good. What shall I do? That is an awesome question. With the stuff that I have, the things that I can control, what shall I do with it? That's a good question. That's an excellent question. What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. I will build up a storehouse of earthly accumulated things. And what am I going to do? And then I can go on cruises. I can get the fun drinks with the umbrellas in it. Fancy beach sitting, concert going. Maybe get myself some new duds. I'll get that convertible I've always wanted. Why not get two? I'll go on that European Danube boat tour thing that sneaks up and down through the, and I'll eat all the fun things. I will rest. I will be at ease. I will say to myself, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Just relax. Eat. Drink. Be merry. You have arrived. All those years, it's the retirement time. It's the golden time. But God said to him, fool. It's not his mother-in-law yelling at him. It's not his wife yelling at him. It's his creator calling him out. You fool. You fool. This night your soul is required of you. And the things you have prepared, the tickets you bought, the storehouses you built, the new golf clubs that you'd wanted for so long, and the courses that you were going to go on, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God. That's interesting. Earthly possessions are self-oriented possessions. Me possessions. Empire building possessions. Stuff, touchable, takeable, stealable. Temporary. And God says, now who's going to get them? Because tonight you die. The man asked an excellent question. What should I do with what I have? What should I do with the time that I have, the treasures that I have, the talents that I have? What should I do with those things? I have an abundance. I have more than I need. What should I do with them? Jesus would give us an answer if you go back to Matthew chapter 6. What should I do? If it's not earthly possessions, the things that are takeable, temporary, touchable, that the weather can get to, that can be lost, that don't last. Jesus, what should I do? He says this in verse 20, lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. Don't storehouse earthly, storehouse heavenly. Do not storehouse earthly things. Storehouse, stock up heavenly things. Now that word heaven's really important. It comes up all over the place in the Sermon on the Mount. So what is a heavenly thing. What is heaven? How do I get there? Is that where the golden gates are and Peter's waiting and marble roads? And is it kind of some kind of eternal divine FDIC thing where it goes up there and I kind of draw on it later? Like what's a heaven storehouse? What's that look like? When Jesus uses the word heaven, the idea of heaven throughout the Sermon on the Mount is these three things together. When you see these things, he's talking about heaven. One, it's Jesus' presence. Where Jesus is, heaven is. Where Jesus is, heaven is. You invest in your relationship with Jesus, no one's taking that away from you. You prioritize your walk with him, experiencing him, growing with him, no one's taking that away from you. Time poured into growing your relationship with Christ. Time poured into learning about Christ. Investing in that space, that's heaven. Christ's presence, Jesus' presence. Secondly, his purpose, his story of redemption. You invest in what he is doing to restore and redeem the creation he loves. That's nothing wasted. The work of justice and speaking truth to power. The work of salvation. You pour into that. You purpose that and you give to that your time and your talents and your treasures. No one will take that from you. No one can take that from you. In the compound interest that investment creates is beyond measure. That's heaven. Can't take that away from you. Thirdly, his people. His people. You invest in his people. You follow Jesus by helping other people follow Jesus. You serve Jesus' children. You serve his church. You help grow and disciple his church. And that is not money wasted. That is not talent wasted. That is not time wasted. No one can take that from you. Moth cannot touch it. Elements cannot touch it. No thief, divine or physical, can take that away. That's heaven. Where thief cannot break in and steal. Where moth cannot touch Jesus' presence, Jesus' purpose, Jesus' people. I was feeling a little Baptist when I did that. I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. It's like, oh, look at that. 1, 2, 3. 3 P's. Oh, so good. Okay. Sorry. Squirrel. Distracted. Okay. So how can we bring this all together? Let's imagine. I know, I haven't used this in so long. I was on a kick for a while, wasn't I? It's like every single sermon, yeah, that whiteboard again. Let's imagine, it's dirty. Yeah, it's dirty. Let's all imagine, if you will, please, that you live in Masking Tape Town. Masking Tape Town. You've lived there your whole life. It's the only place that you'll ever live. It's the only place that you can live. Masking Tape Town. The center of Masking Tape Town is the masking tape factory where everybody lives. Everybody goes and works there. Everyone produces more masking tape. You produce masking tape. You are paid in masking tape because masking tape is the only thing that you have that can hold anything in your life together. That's it. All there is masking tape. You labor for masking tape. You are paid in masking tape so that you can go home because there's a problem with your house. There's a problem with everybody's house. Guess what it is? It's falling apart. Not just your house. There's not some houses in the neighborhood that are better than others. Everyone's house is falling apart. The foundation, it's crumbling. The walls are cracked and broken. Weather can get in the roof. There is mold all over the place inside. The elements have gotten in. There's roaches. There's termites. Everything is miserable. Everyone's home is crumbling in masking tape town. No one can get away from it. Every house on every street, in every neighborhood, and every quadrant of the town is falling apart. And so what does everybody do? Everyone goes to the factory to produce masking tape. They are paid in masking tape. They take that masking tape back so that they can kind of try to hold their life together and cover things up. If it's the foundation, if it's the roof, whatever it might be, whatever might come up. Now, this is true. Some people, their masking tape is a little bit bigger and it's a little bit easier for them to mask over some of the things that might rise up. But, at the end of the day, it's still doing the exact same thing. It's covering up what's underneath, and over the course of a week, a day, sometimes strips fall off. And so what do you have to do? Now, some people, it really fell over, didn't it? It actually did break. It did break. Oh my, look at that. Well, look at that. Yes. Thank you, Jack. Can you hold that for me? That's perfect. I couldn't have written that if I tried. You got that for me? Got it. All right. Day in, day out, day in and day out, people laboring for, being paid in masking tape to go cover up their houses, to cover up the corruption, to cover up the brokenness, to cover up the pain, wherever they might find it, doing anything they possibly can to hold their lives together. Until one day, someone knocks on the door. You're kind of surprised. No one ever knocks on the door. No one has time to knock on the door. Everyone's too busy masking up their life, covering up their life, trying to hold everything together. Who has time to knock on the door? And you open the door and you see this massive, elegant truck. Kingdom Renovations, it says. Kingdom Renovations? Hello, sir. I just need to let you know that we're coming through and rebuilding this whole area. The corruption has gotten so high, the infestation has gotten so bad, the mold has gotten, the bugs have gotten, the wear has just come to a point where we're just going to redo everything and take it all back down to ground, and we're going to build everything new. That's awesome! When's that going to happen? Sometime soon. Sometime soon. We're going to rebuild all of this. Oh! Sometime soon. Yeah, sometime soon. But, sir, we wanted you to know, if you like, we can begin to work on the current home that you're in. We notice that the foundation is compromised. We notice that the walls are worn, that there's an infestation. We can see that the roof, that the rain is getting in. It cannot be fun living in the life that you're in. No, this is not fun. All I can do is try to cover up the mess that I have. This is not fun. I do not enjoy this. None of us enjoy this, sir. We're more than happy to start working on that house now. Yes, all new is coming, but there's no reason that you should suffer now. Well, that'd be awesome. Well, what do? Just put the masking tape in our hands, and we'll take it from there. Just put that masking tape in our hands. We'll take it from there. I give you my masking tape. That's my masking tape. Yes, but to be perfectly honest, sir, that really doesn't fix anything, does it? It's just covering up what's below the surface. Sir, I've got a lot of people I want to talk to. Everyone here has this problem. Everyone here has this situation. We need to make sure that this good news gets to others. Sir, it's your choice. You can masking tape or you can renovate. You can masking tape or you can renovate. Just let us know. Here's my card. You can reach out at any time you want. We can help you put this back together again. We can get rid of those old timbers and we'll put in some new. We'll take out that old foundation and we'll put in new. Just let us know. No pressure. It's your life. Well, the next day you go to the factory and you're cranking out the masking tape, and you go home with your pile of masking tape and you begin the process of doing what everyone does, covering up and masking and covering up, because you got to hold your life together. You're trying to hold your life together the best that you can. But you start to hear the words that he said. And there you are on the line, cranking out the masking tape. And there you are going home with your masking tape, and you can't help but wonder, is it true? Is it true? And so one day, as you're driving home, you pull off on the side of the road, masking tape in your hand. And you call up that sales rep. Hey, I'd like to give it a try. Absolutely, sir. We'll meet you at your house. And you meet someone there. It's tough at first. And you don't give them all of it because let's be honest, you've got work to do, and who knows how they're going to screw it up. It seems like everyone's just fighting over masking tape these days. But you put a little bit in, you give them a little bit of masking tape, and incredible, immediately, they start working on and replacing and renewing and restoring and renovating. Not holding it together, but putting fresh in on the spot. Things that you thought could never be fixed. Things that you thought could never be replaced. You start, next time, you call them against, you start giving them more masking tape, and they start changing more things and transforming more things. And all of a sudden, your neighbor walks over. You don't even know your neighbor's name. You guys are too busy using masking tape. He's masking his house. You're masking your house. You don't have time to interact. He's like, hey, I haven't seen you outside masking too much. Everything okay? Everything's great. What's going on over in that house of yours? Things are different. It's a little bit different than the way it was before. What's going on there? Oh, they came in and they started replacing stuff and changing stuff and fixing stuff. No. Yeah, I did. What'd you have to do? Just handed over the masking tape. Gave up trying to cover it up. Let them replace it all together. All new. No. Yeah. Yeah. That point where an individual decides to be committed to a better future versus labor at a temporary that will not last, the moment that person decides to pour into the other is what Jesus means when he says, where your treasure is, there your heart is. Where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. You can keep laboring at the outside and showing off the outside and dressing up the outside. And you can do this all day long for its foolishness and its futility, what is takeable, touchable, temporary. That's where your heart's at. Like Dorian Gray looking at the painting and seeing the evil that's within. The moment you hand that over and say, no. I'm committed to something else, something greater, a greater story, a better way of being human. And Jesus says, that is a heart that's set on heaven. That's a heart thinking about heaven. Jackson, so much. Can you set that over there? Thanks, buddy. I broke it, didn't I? Jackson, thank you for being that guy. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So we're going to be having an offering. For a temporary thing. Let me give you the best that I could think 7 keys to unlock a heart set on heaven. 7 questions, thoughts, principles, ideas, actions that might help you get to this space. Because Jesus just drops the mic and he walks away, right? I mean, look at the passage. There's no doables. It's just like, hey, boom, good luck. We're forced to walk with that. We're expected to take a cup of tea and a long walk with these things to unpack where's my heart at? Do I have a heart that's an earthly heart? Do I have a heart that's a heavenly heart? Here are 7 keys that might help you this week unpack those things. The first one is this: literally, just follow the money. This is not the most important one, it's just the first one. This will help you look back. This will help you track. Don't chase it, follow it. There's a difference. Don't chase it, track it. Look back. The last week, the last month, the last 3 months, just follow the money. And more than money, but follow your money. Follow your time, follow the investments of your talents. Where have you poured your time, your talents, and your treasures into? Have they gone towards earthly things, or have they gone towards heavenly things? Just follow the money. In James chapter 5, James, the half-brother of Jesus, writes a commentary on the Sermon on the Mount, and you can hear so many of Jesus' teachings echoing and ringing out in James's letter. In James chapter 5, this passage might help us a little bit. In James 5, I'm going to read verses 1 to 7. Come now, you rich. Okay, who's rich? Okay, if you had a choice between at least two different outfits this morning, you're rich. Okay? If you had the option between at least 2 different outfits, 2 different pairs of shoes, you're rich. If you have food waiting for you at home, you're rich. Okay? Just let's get to that space. Come now, you rich, weep, howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted, your garments are moth-eaten, your gold and silver have corroded, and their corrosion will be evidence against you and will eat your flesh like fire. Why? Well, you have laid up treasure in the last days. The last days mean the days in light of his return, the days in light of the judge coming back. Instead of living for that, you've lived for yourself. Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you. And the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. You have lived on the earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the righteous person. He does not resist you. Warning to the rich person. Track your money. Did you use it for earth? Did you use it for yourself? Have you invested in your walk with Christ? Have you invested it in his purpose, his story? Have you invested it in his people, the things that last? Just track the money. Track your time. Audit your time. How did you pour it into the things of God's people? How did you pour it into your relationship with Jesus? Just follow the money. That's what they say in the movies, right? How do we figure out who the bad guy is? How do we figure out who did it? Just follow the money. Just follow the money. Number 2, your emotions, your feelings. Paul, how does being aware of my emotions and my feelings help me today? A heart set on earthly things feels earthly ways. A heart set on heavenly things feels heavenly things. If my heart is swimming in the possessions of earth, where I am so anxious and so worried and so rageful about my stuff and my time and what's going to happen to my things, that shows me through the feelings of my heart where my heart is located. But if my heart is set in heaven, where Jesus is and his purpose is and his people are being discipled, a heart of assurance, a heart of grace, a heart of love, a heart of peace. Cue in on your emotions. Think them through. Think them through. Are they emotions of anxiety? Are they emotions of rage? Displaced, misplaced anger over possessions that you can't keep anyways? Or is it a heart of assurance and peace and kindness and gentleness? Your emotions will tell you where your heart's at. Your emotions will tell you where your heart's swimming, what your heart's focused on, what your heart is feeding on. Third thing, where are you getting pushback? Where are you experiencing pushback? Heavenly investments look foolish from earthly perspectives. Heavenly investments will look foolish from an earthly perspective. When we watch our boys play soccer at Troy, where the stands are at, sometimes it's hard to tell if the ball being kicked is close or not. It looks from our perspective like, oh, that was so close. That was so close. Oh my goodness, that was so close. Only to find out it was nowhere close at all. Just the nature of perspective. Abby, you know what I'm talking about? Like everyone's freaking out like, Mom, Dad, wasn't even close. Wasn't even anywhere near it. If you could rise up and look down and see it, you'd be like, that's not even close at all. If you get pushback from people with an earthly perspective on your choices, it probably means you're making the right choices. If you, sadly, are married to someone who mocks you because of the money you give to your church fellowship or the time you put into kingdom pursuits, if they mock you and say, what a waste, you know you're on the right path. You know you're on the right path. Because heavenly investments will look foolish from earthly perspectives. This is also why fellowship and community is so important. Christian community is so important to help us continue to make the right discipleship courses, to hold us accountable to our perspective and our values in what we're doing, okay? Number 4, watch out for this mistake. Families, we're going to drill in a little bit. Watch out for this mistake. Just because something isn't immoral doesn't mean it's godly. Just because it's not sinful doesn't mean it's not silly and stupid. What do I mean? Do not make the mistake of thinking that because you have spent your money and your time on a family thing, that family thing gets your kids any closer to Christ. Just because it's a family thing doesn't mean it's not a silly, stupid thing, a foolish thing. There's nothing wrong. He built bigger barns. Is that sinful to build bigger barns? That's not sinful. The Lord just says, that was just silly. That was a waste. So parents specifically, learn to find ways to orient your children not towards the pursuit of earthly possessions, but heavenly possessions. How are you immersing them in a relationship with Jesus? How does that choice that you're making, the hobby that you're thrusting them into, the time that you have them dedicating to that thing, how is it getting them closer to Jesus? How is it getting them closer to understanding their place in God's story of redemption? How is that bringing them in closer relationship with God's people? If it's not doing those things, it's not a heavenly pursuit. It's not a heavenly pursuit. You're just teaching them to waste their life. That's all. Don't make that mistake. Fathers specifically, I'm starting a new parenting class in 2 Wednesdays. I say fathers on purpose. Last year was a great class. Those of you who participated, I pray that it was a blessing to you. It was a blessing to me. But the reality is that 90% of those attending were mothers. And 10% were fathers. I don't need to go to no parenting class. As you screw up your kids. I would love to see more fathers come to that class. Because, men, you do not yet appreciate the weight and the gravity, the depth of spiritual influence you have, the shadow you cast across your home. Let's learn to immerse our families in the story of Jesus in a walk with Jesus' people. Number 5, here's a great question to ask. The fool asked himself a good question. Here's a good question. Will this last? The thing that I'm sweating over, burning over, stressing over, worrying over, will it last? Is it temporary or is it eternal? It's just a great question. And then sit with the answer. Embrace the answer. Get into that answer. Is it unwise? Where I'm giving my money, my time, my talents? Will it last? Okay, now I know. 6thly, do a cost comparison. Do a cost comparison. This thing that you're chasing after, this thing that you're giving time to, money to, resources to. Because earthly things cost more, heavenly things are worth more. Earthly things will cost you more, heavenly things are worth more. Earthly possessions, they'll cost you your marriage. Earthly things will cost you your kids. They'll cost you your joy. They'll cost you your peace. But heavenly things, worth so much more. Here's a key passage that we're going to come back to over the next 3 Sundays. This is in Matthew chapter 19. Matthew chapter 19. Verses 16 to 30. Each week we're going to look at it again, and I'm going to challenge you with it in a little bit. Matthew chapter 19, verses 16 to 30. Behold, a man came up to Jesus saying, "Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life?" He said to him, "Why do you ask me about what is good? There's only one who is good. If you would enter life, keep the commandments." He said to him, "Which ones?" Jesus said, "You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, bear false witness, honor your father, your mother, you shall love your neighbor as yourself." He goes through the 10 Commandments. This is why we teach the 10 Commandments in our catechism. The young man said to himself, "All of these I have kept. What do I still lack?" Jesus said to him, "If you would be perfect, if you would have peace, if you would be all the things that God has intended you to be, go, sell what you possess, give it to the poor. Release yourself from your earthly possessions, and you will have treasure in heaven. Come, follow me." Come follow me. When the young man heard this, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Notice the feelings that he has because of where his heart is at. Notice his decision. Notice his devotion. Where is his heart at? Jesus said to his disciples, "Truly I say to you, only with difficulty will a rich person enter the kingdom of heaven." That should hit all of us a little bit this morning. Again, I tell you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. Is that like a metaphor? No, it is easier for a camel to go through a needle than for a person with a lot of possessions to entrust himself to King Jesus. When the disciples heard this, they were greatly astonished and saying, "Who can be saved?" Jesus looked at them and said, "Well, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." Peter said in reply, "See, well, we've left everything and have followed you. What then will we have? What are we going to show for it? What is our heavenly possessions going to get us?" Jesus said to him, "Truly, I say to you, in the new world, when the Son of Man sits on his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel, and everyone who has left houses, brothers, sisters, father, mother, children, or lands for my name's sake will receive 100-fold and will inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last will be first." My last challenge and key to you is take a 21-day challenge and read that passage every day. For 21 days, read that passage every day. This week, ask yourself one question. Spirit, where is my heart? Spirit, where is my heart? Let the Word of God through the Spirit of God in the name of Jesus lead you to that place. For the next 21 days, get an accountability partner, a spiritual father, mother, discipleship partner, and say, hey, let's read it together. Hey, let's check in with each other. But for the next 21 days, read that passage once each day. This week, ask yourself, where's my heart? Next week, we're going to ask ourselves, where's our focus? The last week, we're going to ask ourselves, who's my master? Who's my master? The Sermon on the Mount starts with these words. Blessed are the poor. Theirs is heaven. Theirs is heaven. As you stand across from the portrait that is your soul, that is your heart, how quick are you to cover it over and mask it up and cover the brokenness and the treason, confident that if I can just put one more layer on it, if I could just put one more strip on it, then it will be fine. Look, doesn't it look great from the outside? I'm holding it together. Or do you hear the words of the painter this morning? Can I look at that, please? Can I look at that, please? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.